Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social Podcast. We are here on the 27th of July after two stages of the Tour de France already making a podcast as promised if something big would happen. With me here to talk about that is Issam.
Hi everybody.
So you probably already saw today in the Tour de France, Mathieu van der Poel put in a stunner of a stage on the Mur de Bretagne. He attacked twice and ultimately won the stage and took the yellow jersey after a somewhat disappointing first stage. So Issam, what were your thoughts about that final today on the Mur de Bretagne?
Well, I mean, for today's stage, they actually had to pass the Mur de Bretagne twice. So and basically in the first passage there was bonus seconds which you could get for the first three crossing the finish line, or at least the finish line for the first passage of the Mur de Bretagne. And Van der Poel attacked basically from the start of the climb, the first climb, and it was a bit of a surprise for me. I was kind of surprised with that attack. But he managed to get first to the top in the first passage, just before the peloton. I think Roglic and Pogacar were behind him. I think Pogacar got second and Roglic third in the first passage. At that moment, I thought, well, he's maybe already thinking about a yellow jersey, and he's probably feeling very well. And you could really see his team positioning him well for the second passage of the Mur de Bretagne and also the finish. And well, what we have seen there on the Mur de Bretagne, he was so alert for attacks. I think Quintana went first. He followed Quintana very well. Colbrelli went. He was in his wheels, and then he looked behind and he was like, okay, well, it's my time now to go. And when he went, there was nobody able to react. I mean, there were class riders there with Pogacar and Roglic. Even Alaphilippe had no answer, and just an incredible ride, and definitely in contrast from yesterday.
Yeah, definitely, because yesterday, if we talk about that briefly, it was a finish that was somewhat comparable. I think the climb itself was slightly easier, but the thing was that after the climb you had 2 kilometers of long draining false flat. That was really tough on the player or on the cyclist. So I am a bit confused. I've watched a lot of sport today, football and Formula 1 as well. But anyway, it was very draining for the cyclist there. There was some talk that he wasn't good enough yesterday. I think personally he couldn't have beaten Alaphilippe. Let's be honest. Let's face it, Alaphilippe was super strong. But also, you don't need to forget, Van der Poel was in a terrible position going into that final climb. He was like, 50th, 40th, something. And basically, he moves himself forward on the uphill it's basically comparable to an attack what he does. Then he comes on the wheel of Alaphilippe, and as soon as he's on the wheel of Alaphilippe attacks. I mean, then it's just impossible for Van der Poel to follow. I mean, if you already done such an effort, you can't follow Alaphilippe, especially if Alaphilippe has such a good day.
Yeah, indeed. I think tactically it was not really the strongest race, the first stage. I think there was obviously a lot going on. They were riding that first stage in the colors of Poupou, of Raymond Poulidor, to honor his legacy. Maybe that has to do something with the way he was riding, but in a way it was kind of weird tactically to be at the back of the peloton with only 2 or 3 kilometers to go to the climb. And even on the climb itself, he had to do a big effort to get on the front, like you said. And the moment he actually was, he was there with Dries Devenijns from Quickstep, pulling the whole peloton on with a very fast pace. And Alaphilippe just went, and he had no answer because he was, I think, he was recovering from the effort he had to do to come to the front. So we talked about it in the preview already, that we knew that Van der Poel was not going to be in Strade Bianchi shape, if you could call it like that. But we also knew that he was going to be good and good enough to win stage races. And this was just really, stage 1 was really a weird stage for him, not really technically strong. And today he did everything right. So, amazing to see.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that today the thing goes the other way around. There was just nothing you could do against Van der Poel. I mean, you gave a short recap of the stage and you gave your own feedback on that, and I do really agree on that, because if you look today, Van der Poel, first he goes on the Mur de Bretagne, and the commentators were somewhat confused. They thought, what is he doing? Is he looking to find good legs somewhere? But for me, like you said, it was clear he wanted that yellow jersey. He knew this was his last realistic opportunity. He goes for it, and he basically just grabs those bonification seconds, because you could see when he passes the banner with 1k to go, you can see he's looking back and sees, okay, I have a gap, let's take it easy, nothing too crazy. Finally, he's in a good position for that final climb. He reacts to everything that he needs to react to, and then he goes at the perfect moment, and the rest just looks at each other and is like, we can't follow this. Personally, I was a bit disappointed by Alaphilippe's performance today. I would have expected him better compared to yesterday. What do you think could go into that?
Well, I mean, obviously that wasn't an easy effort. I mean, putting such a gap on all the riders behind him, and then winning that stage. He went very early in that climb as well, which kind of surprised me. I didn't expect him to go that early, and I didn't expect him to be that good in that first stage. But I think we talked about it already before, and we were kind of discussing finding a way to explain the a little bit more disappointing result of Alaphilippe today. And I think what could have played into it is probably, you winning the yellow jersey. You have to go through all those things that you have to do, obligations that you need to do. You have to go to the podium ceremony, then you go to the media, you have to talk to a ton of journalists. You go home to the hotel, and then you have to talk again to a bunch of journalists via the webcam or whatever, because of social distancing and stuff. It was a busy day for him, so you cannot really recover from such an effort, and I think maybe that played a role into it.
And especially, it's a French guy in France, world champion. I mean, it just all adds to the media attention. Probably every TV station, radio station, newspaper in France wanted to talk to Alaphilippe yesterday. And also, Alaphilippe isn't this calm guy. He's very energetic. He is really hyperactive, is what I've seen from quickstep footage, and I think it took a really long time for him to finally calm down in the evening and be able to get his rest. And I think that's also an important factor that went into his performance today. Was he bad? No, definitely not. And what I definitely found really nice to see was his gesture of respect after losing the yellow jersey to Van der Poel. Basically, this hand gesture after the finish, saying that he deserved the yellow jersey and that he thought it was very nice that he could honor his grandfather in this way. So that was really nice to see.
Yeah, there's really a mutual respect between the two. They really, I don't know, I don't think there's a real friendship. They're rivals, but there's definitely a visible sign of respect between each other, because when Alaphilippe won the first stage, one of the first guys to go to him and congratulate him with the victory and the yellow jersey was Van der Poel. And it's the same way it goes around. Alaphilippe knew that he probably lost the jersey, or I don't know if he knew that already, but he went to him and congratulated him in a very respectable manner, and that's what we want to see, with cyclists, to have respect with each other. That's good for us, and good to see in the peloton.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have covered it for this stage. Maybe we should take a short look forward. What do you see coming for this Tour de France? How long do you think he can keep the yellow jersey?
Stage 3 it's yeah. I mean, it's not gonna be something very special. It's a tricky stage, and I think it has some potential to be a bit hectic. But it can just only be a sprint finish. I feel like, and then you go to stage 4. It's a bit of the same flat stage, sprint finish. So he just needs to stay out of trouble. And then the individual time trial, I think that is gonna be the stage where it's gonna lose it, because Roglic, Pogacar are very close by. I think only the gap is 13 and 12 seconds or something. So I don't think he's gonna be able to cover that gap in a 27 kilometer time trial. So that's gonna be very tough, I think.
Yeah, I think he can definitely hold it until the time trial and then lose it after that. Also, pretty funny to note, actually, he also took the KOM jersey, which he won't wear. That will be worn by another Dutch rider, Ide Schelling. And that's pretty funny. I don't think he will actually be able to wear it. There's still a few KOM points up for grabs in the upcoming days, and Schelling or Perez will definitely go for that. But anyway, he has a polka dot jersey in his cabinet now, which must be a nice feeling. Only thing missing now is the points jersey, and who knows, maybe that can still come. I doubt it though. I think they will go for Philipsen or Merlier in tomorrow's stage.
Stage 3 is a tricky stage. So if you look at the profile, it can have some difficulties for some sprinters, and even with that weird downhill in the last, I think, 10 kilometers, I don't know. It's gonna be a tough one. If it's gonna be a regular sprint or it's gonna be more a sprint with some punchers. But for Van der Poel, the goal is he completed the Tour de France already. He won a stage. He has the yellow jersey, or he wore the yellow jersey at least for one day to tomorrow. So he's happy. He's going. If he has to go home tomorrow, he's going home. Very satisfied, and it's very nice to see actually that he won it, and it kind of makes me speechless, that performance that he had put on. It really does make me speechless a little bit.
Well, it certainly made Van der Poel speechless as well. I mean, we keep on coming back to it, but this we didn't discuss. There are just so many things that happened, but he was really emotional after the finish of this stage. I mean, he was crying in the interview, and then the interviewer eventually, after asking some just stupid questions, he cut off the interview, but you still had this shot of him just sitting there and realizing what just happened. I mean, was very, very emotional to look at.
Yeah, because obviously we know his grandfather is Raymond Poulidor. The relationship between the two was very, very close, very intense, and we know that his grandfather passed away last year, and he wasn't able to to see his his grandchild in the Tour de France, winning a stage, winning the yellow jersey for a couple of days, maybe wearing it. So I can really understand the emotions going up a little high there, and you could really see that it touched him a lot, and it means a lot for him to win this yellow jersey, and it meant a lot for him to win a stage in the Tour de France, and that just shows you how big this race is, and how big it actually is for cyclocross to see a cyclocross world champion winning a stage in the Tour de France.
Well, maybe we should just touch upon Wout van Aert as well then. I mean, Van Aert, I expected a bit more from him, but I said that in our preview, I expected Van Aert to actually contend for yellow here. To me, it's unclear whether it's a thing of not enough belief in himself, or it's just a matter of knowing himself well enough that he knows that he misses 1 or 2%, and he knows that he isn't good enough to contend, so he says, okay, I'll work for Roglic. He hasn't actually lost too much time, so he's 31 seconds down now. So let's face it, he's 15 seconds down on Roglic and Pogačar. Maybe if he is in a good form, he can ride a very good TT. We know that. He beat Ganna in a TT this year in Tirreno. Maybe there's still a yellow jersey up for the grabs for Wout van Aert as well. If he rides a very strong TT, 15 seconds on Pogačar, I see that doable. 15 seconds on Roglic. Tough, but not impossible on a flat TT. Van Aert is a flat engine. So, who knows?
Yeah, it's still up for grabs, but I have seen some signs that I didn't really like. And one of the signs is that he is, that free roll, what Jumbo was talking about, that he was going to get in the first week, at least the first 2 weeks. I don't really see it happen. I think he is... he has to work for Roglic. He has to make sure that Roglic is in a good position. Roglic seems very strong, by the way. And I think that just internal, there has been some discussions maybe, and they were very clear to him that he is going to help Roglic in the more hilly and difficult stages, and probably maybe a stage as tomorrow or the day after, he has his chance in the flat stages to maybe go for a sprint. I think that his GC ambitions are for the first 2 weeks that he maybe can get in the yellow are day by day going to be more and more difficult.
I think now also with those crashes of yesterday, it's definitely necessary that Van Aert takes on more the leading role in the team. I mean, we haven't touched upon that, but in stage 1 there were 2 mass crashes. One was caused by a spectator and took out almost the entire Jumbo team. I think only Geesink managed to escape that because he was leading the peloton. But Teunissen and Tony Martin were the most affected riders of Jumbo, and these were also the 2 riders who were mainly supposed to lead the team on the flat, also for Roglic to keep him in position. These 2 riders are now severely injured, especially Teunissen was in a real bad condition when he came across the line after stage 1. Today he was somewhat okay, is what I've heard. He didn't finish in the last group, but I still heard he was in quite some pain. So Van Aert is now definitely needed to lead this team. I don't know, will he get chances? Perhaps later on in the Tour, but at this point I just really don't know what Van Aert is going to do. What is his role going to be? At this point, I would somewhat tend to say that he isn't going to get a lot of chances this year.
Yeah, I like I said, I think it's gonna be more. He's gonna have his chances in the sprint, and then again, in the sprint, it's gonna be very difficult because I think there are so many sprinters that think that they have a chance. Like I said, I hope he's gonna get that stage victory somewhere, and I think he will be able to do that. But every day, every stage that passes by, it's gonna be more and more difficult for him to have a chance of getting a yellow jersey, and I think that probably his preparation for the Tour de France with obviously the surgery that he had maybe didn't bring him to his best shape, and yeah, it's just a shame to see. But the Tour is still long, and maybe he can grow in the Tour.
Well, I think the only chance that's here for a yellow jersey is that time trial. He needs to put in a very strong time trial then, and then it is definitely possible, but that will be his only chance for a yellow jersey. How long will Jumbo be wanting to defend that? I don't know. I think in stage 7 a break could take it then. Will they? Who knows? But that's for later. We should briefly touch on tomorrow's stage before we round off. Do you think that Van Aert will be allowed to sprint in tomorrow's stage?
I think he will be allowed, but I think he has to do also some work. I think he has to, especially with that downhill that I look at in the profile. I don't know how dangerous that downhill is going to be there, but I definitely think that he needs to help Roglic there, and then after that, maybe he has a chance of sprinting for victory.
I think that he won't be sprinting, but I think tomorrow will definitely tell a lot about what Van Aert is going to be doing the rest of the Tour. If we see him up there sprinting tomorrow, we can be sure that Van Aert is definitely going to try and win some stages, either in a sprint or in a sprint of a reduced group. If he isn't there, I think it's just signaling to us that at least in the first week he's definitely on duty for Roglic. And I don't necessarily think that's bad. I mean, if you look at the Olympics, which is also a goal for Van Aert, but he's doing the road race and time trial, then it's maybe the best for him if he isn't in full peak form now and he has some margin to improve towards Tokyo.
That might be the thing. I've heard it already. So a couple of guys that were talking about it that obviously also wants to be good at Tokyo. That might be a thing. But I still think that back in his head at the beginning of the year when they were planning the route to the Tour de France, I think he wanted a little bit more in this Tour de France, and I think he was dreaming of a yellow jersey, and probably that surgery just put him off, not in the right shape to be able to do that. And like I said, bit of a shame. And Roglic is now probably the main leader, so he has to work for him. And hopefully we can see him getting a chance in one of the flatter stages for a sprint victory.
I think he was definitely dreaming of it, but now things just turned out differently. That same goes for Tim Merlier. I mean, he was probably dreaming of winning a stage here as well. He crashed bad. I think he went down twice yesterday, and he was also severely injured. They are probably going for Philipsen tomorrow, so our hopes of Tim Merlier getting an early stage win can also be parked somewhere for perhaps later in the Tour.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, then I think we've had it for this episode of the Cyclocross Social Podcast. We are ending here on the first time in 3,629 days since the last time that a non-World Tour rider was wearing the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. Back then it was Thomas Voeckler riding for Europcar in the 2011 Tour de France. I would like to thank Issam for tuning in today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
And I would like to thank everyone for listening, and we will report on this Tour de France once again when there is any news considering the cyclocross riders. See you guys then. Goodbye.